Hey, what's up? In the middle of nowhere, talking to myself with a camera, so this is going to be a little awkward, but bear with me. This is the Tacamo magazine feed conversion kit for the Tippmann A5 paintball gun. Tacamo! And what I'm trying to do here is test it and review it for everybody, although everybody probably already has theirs. But nonetheless, I'm going to do it. Also, I'm going to zero my sight because that's in need of some zeroing. First thing I want to talk about is some of the issues with the kit, specifically with my gun. The air mounting is a problem. Normally I run vertical air out the bottom of the tombstone, and I have a folding stock. I can fold that over and have a fairly short maneuverable paintball gun, which comes in handy when playing abandoned buildings like the one you're going to see in the background today, but which you aren't seeing in the background yet. But with the magazine kit, magazines go right here and my air can't, which leaves me only one other option, rear air mounting, which utterly defeats the purpose of my folding stock. Fold it over and the gun maintains the same length, don't gain any maneuverability, and that sucks. So I'm going to have to come up with another air mounting solution. I'm going to try and mount it bullpup style in my stock with an air line to the tombstone. But that's all besides the point, because you guys probably don't have this setup and don't need to know any of that. Just letting you know that this isn't here for no reason. Now let's move on to things that we're supposed to be talking about, I guess. The issues with the magazine kit. There are a lot of problems with it. I still like it myself. But before I show you why I like it, I'm going to show you what the flaws there are. First off, let me see, what should I talk about first? Oh, first thing I should talk about is the magazines themselves. They have pressure activated detents on the top. So when this ring is pushed down, paintballs are allowed to come out of the magazine. And that's a little bit of a problem, because the best way to store your magazines for quickly removing them and loading them, the best way to store them is upside down. Well, that's a problem, because if you put them in a mag pouch upside down, they activate the pressure detent and release their paintballs in your mag pouch instead of loading them into your gun. So what you need to do if you want to store them upside down, which is the best way to do it for tactical reasons, maybe not so much practical when dealing with these specific magazines, is use some kind of block in the bottom of the magazine pouch so that when you put the magazines in, they sit on the block, and that prevents the actual detent from touching the bottom of the magazine and actuating. What I'm using actually happens to be an old cell phone charger that fits conveniently in the magazine pouch. But even with a block like that, you know, these detents can hit the side of the magazine pouch as you're inserting them or removing them, and it's still a problem. Even with the block, you got to be careful with these things, and that kind of sucks. Now let's move on to the mag kit, or the mag well. There's some issues with this too, which most people already know about, and which the company that made these is supposedly going to address with an upgrade. The first, well, the one I'm talking about specifically right now, is the magazine release button right here is too far forward for a right-handed operator to hit with their trigger finger. So you have to use your left hand or your forward hand. The problem with that is, you know, the button is on the opposite side of the magazine well from your hand, so it's hard to get to. What they suggest on the website is actually using your thumb like this, which is alright for reaching the button, but it brings up another problem, which is even when the button is depressed any way you do it, the magazine doesn't actually fall out on its own. It actually has to be pulled out manually, and when you're actuating the magazine release like this, it's kind of hard to grab the magazine and pull it out. So what I've been doing is actually just taking my thumb off of the grip and moving my hand forward And that's the problem, because it takes your shooting finger away from the shooter. And that's not good. But for now, I suppose it'll have to suffice. That's the first issue. Another issue is that if you push this magazine release button in too hard, it can get stuck in where it won't come back out. Should just like that, if you can see it, hopefully. But if you push it too hard, it'll get jammed in there, which is fine when you're pulling out a magazine, but when you put in your new magazine, it doesn't lock, because, you know, the locker's stuck. And what I've found is either the button is going inside of the hole that it's supposed to come out of and misaligning so it doesn't come back out, or this bar right here, this sort of latch, is getting caught on this lip. Either way, it's a problem. I don't know if they need to get rid of the lip, or make the lip taller, or make the button taller, or make the spring inside a little bit bigger so it can't compress that much. But they need to do something about that. If it's a common problem, maybe it's just mine. Maybe I just need to mod my own. Hopefully you don't have the same problem. And the last issue I'm going to talk about is tack loading. Doesn't work very well with this system. Tack loading is where you reload a fresh, fully loaded magazine, even though the other magazine that's currently loaded isn't necessarily empty. And the reason why you would want to do that is just to make sure you have the extra 3 or 4 paintballs for the next time somebody shoots at you. Might make the difference. So tactical reload doesn't work so well with this gun, or with this kit, because there's no detent in the chamber to hold the paintball that's in the chamber in that chamber. Said chamber a lot of times, really close together. Probably didn't sound that great. Also, as you remove the magazine, before this detent can engage, usually one last paintball slips out. So every time you tack load, you're going to lose that paintball that pops out of the magazine and the round in your chamber, and just waste them. They're just going to fall on the ground. So you're best off just waiting to run out of paintballs, in which case you might have to reload at an inopportune time, rather than when nobody's shooting at you and you have the opportunity. So, no tack loading with this kit, unless you're alright with wasting the paint. Anything else I need to talk about? Oh, the magazines have some more issues. As you can see, there's this sort of ball pusher thing on top of the spring in the magazine that pushes the paintballs out. And what happens sometimes, hasn't happened right now, but maybe we can make it happen. Yep, there it goes. The ball, this plastic ball, will actually get stuck in the paintball detent, and as you wind it, you know, the spring won't get pulled back. It'll stretch out the spring. That's bad. So you got to make sure that that's not happening, or you're going to ruin your magazine eventually. Don't know how big of an issue that is, because stretching out the spring will just increase the compression, I guess, but I still wouldn't want to do it if I were you. I'm no expert though. So you got to keep an eye on these things when you're loading them. They don't always work smoothly. So those are the issues, and starting with them probably makes the kit sound pretty bad, but now we're actually going to shoot it, and that's going to be pretty fun. So, be right back. Alright, I'm back. Step 1, of course, to shooting the gun is to load the magazine, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Even though it's pretty simple, and even though there's support videos out there already from the company to show you how to do that, I have to do it, so I might as well film it. First step is you wind this windy thingy, I'm using the technical terms here, until the spring is fully compressed. And what that allows you to do is just drop the paintballs in without having to force them in against the spring. Oops. These magazines hold up to 20 rounds. There's other magazines that hold 18, but you know, sometimes paintballs will pop out or not hold properly, and you know, you'll wind up with an off number. It's not 100% consistent, but It's a lot more consistent than a hopper probably, especially one like my old hopper, which was a low capacity tack cap. You know, sometimes it'd be 28, sometimes it'd be 23. There we go. I didn't count, but I'm sure that's 20. Oh, of course the last step you need to do is what you just saw me do. Release the spring. This lever here releases the spring, allows it to compress all the paintballs. Skipping steps now. But you don't need to see me load the second one because you already saw me load the first one. So I'm just going to pause the recording and pick up later when I'm done. Alright, I'm back. Magazines loaded. 20 rounds, I'm pretty sure. Each. 40 total. Still wish I had more magazines, of course. I will eventually. Now we got to very carefully put them in our magazine pouch because, again, if it hits anything on the side or the bottom too hard, you'll spill all your paintballs, or, you know, at least a couple up to like half a magazine is the worst spill I had. But either way, it sucks. Alright. That part's done. Now let's go shoot this thing. Well, I've already tested the 98 and had some problems with the trigger assembly. It's firing on automatic because the sear latch isn't re-engaging when you pull the trigger, which is actually kind of cool. It might turn into a automatic modification if I can get it to work, but it's having problems feeding the paintballs, so I'm going to try and use the camera to look into the breech while it's firing and see why that's the case. Alright, now we're going to test the 98. As I mentioned before, there's a problem with the sear and it's actually firing on automatic, and I kind of like that. The only problem is it's not feeding the balls very reliably. So what I want to do is see if I can get an angle inside the chamber while firing without shooting the camera, hopefully. Yeesh. And see maybe why they're not feeding that well. There we go, we can see clearly into the chamber. My question is, gotta make sure the angle's right to do so. I'm guesstimating that right here will be alright. Jammed. Jammed. Wow, this is really bad today. This is worse than it's been. That sear really is not engaging now. It just kicked in out of paintballs. Let's see how it does when it's not feeding paint. Wow, works a lot better. But still jams. Whew. See if it does any better with the barrel on. Maybe that was affecting it somehow, making it even less reliable than usual. Usually it fires bursts of paintballs. This time I was only firing one. Ooh, that hurt. Jammed. Now it's firing, but it's firing air, but no paint is coming out. Jeez, this magazine lock is not engaging well. Just firing 2 paintballs. Got 3 out that time before it jammed. pull out that time. Jammed again though. As you can see, the 98 is plagued with issues. Very cold. Let's go back to testing the A5. It's less depressing. By the way, the issue with the sear in the 98 is not necessarily because of the mag kit. Well, it is because of the mag kit, but it probably won't happen to your marker. Mine is so old that it has apparently a very different sear than what all of the newer models are coming out with, and the grip doesn't have the mountings for a return spring that it needs. Hey, so what I'm going to be doing right now is test firing this thing, but I'm not only test firing to make sure the kit works, but I'm also going to be dialing in my sight. Before this kit, which has a flat top weaver rail, which is very nice, I had to go with a 45-degree offset weaver rail to mount this sight, which put it off to the side like this. It's calibrated for that mounting, and now that it's straight, the calibration is off, so I need to recalibrate it and also test the kit. I'm going to be firing it with my mask on just because that's a good way to shoot paintball guns anytime you're doing it for any reason. Also because there's not much point to aiming a paintball gun if you're not aiming it with your mask on, because it's not going to work the same way later in a paintball game where you are wearing your mask. Time to break out the tools. Not a big fan of breaking out tools. I prefer things to just work out of the box. But that's rarely the case with anything. At least anything I play with. This is actually a belt buckle with a screwdriver on it. It comes in handy. First thing we're going to do is fire at a barrel, which you may or may not be able to see. It's in that doorway on the right side of the building. And I'm going to, I guess, adjust by hand for the offset of the sight. I believe they call that Kentucky windage. And then once I'll get the grouping on the barrel, observe that grouping, and then adjust the sight settings itself so that I don't need to manually adjust later. I can just put the red dot on the target and fire. Of course, that's all in theory. And what do you know? Oh, nope, it didn't die. Thought my sight died there for a second. Looks like it's about to. And here goes nothing. That was actually tremendously bad. Tremendously bad. It's the paint. I bought cheap paint today, and I'm really paying for it now. But I did get a few shots on the target, and it seems like I need to adjust my sight so that it's lower and to the left. Let's go take a look at the grouping, which is going to be terrible. Here's my grouping from yesterday when I tried the same thing but didn't make as good of a video. From the same distance, we got a group about the size of a torso with month-old paint. Today with brand new cheap paint. Same distance. Let's see, the furthest shot to the right looks like it landed over here. And the furthest shot I see to the left seems to have landed over here. It's about a 6 foot wide grouping. Lowest shot landed on the ground somewhere. But just to make it easy, the lowest shot we can find hit the very bottom of the barrel. The highest shot, almost the top of the doorway. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible spread. Again, that's what the gun shot yesterday. That slightly wider grouping up higher is from a little bit further back. This is another grouping from the same range yesterday. Again, about torso sized, which is great. Today, it's just all over the place. Terrible. Can't even really calibrate my sight by it because, you know, the accuracy of the paint is so bad it might be curving way far left where normal paint won't. But again, did get some shots on the barrel, and I'll try and adjust based on that and probably just readjust later when I get nicer paint. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots out of 20. So less than, well, just over 25% accuracy, and that's terrible. With a grouping like that from yesterday, that would have been almost 100% accuracy, maybe 80, 90%. And from a pretty good range with a paintball gun. But of course, that was all yesterday. Now, everything has changed. Let that be a lesson to everyone that everyone already knows. Don't buy cheap paint. It will make a difference, and it won't be a good one. Alright, here we go again. Adjusted the sight a little bit. This is just all bad, people. Completely ruined this whole thing by getting the wrong paint. Guess I'll still go through the motions though, and I suppose I'll still post it. I'm not gonna like it one bit. Oh, that time out of 20 shots, I believe 1 hit the barrel. But I think the sight is getting a little bit better calibrated because that one shot was the first shot, and with the red dot right on the center of the target. Hey, just a little update. Just had a detent issue in my magazine pouch, and the magazine actually managed to eject. A bee is buzzing me. Now it's gone. The magazine managed to eject all of the paintballs that were loaded in it, every single one of them, into the bottom of my pouch. So that one's just going to have to be reloaded. And keep in mind, the bee is back. That's with the block in the bottom to prevent that. That was just inserting it. There was a little friction between the sides of the magazine pouch and the detent, and that's what allowed it to actuate. a lot of paintballs in here. It's bad juju, Rap 4. Gotta get it together with these magazines, figure out a better detent system, maybe one that twists instead of just pushes in. So it needs an angled surface to actuate it. Just a suggestion. On the upside, the spilled ball toll rests at 6 so far today, and I've never had a day dumping bags and pods into hoppers where I didn't spill at least, 50 paintballs at some point. Not to mention reloading these once you're in the field is a heck of a lot faster than messing around with pods and hoppers. And if you get enough magazines, which is the only problem, you can have just as much capacity as anyone running hoppers, but have faster, better reloads. Which is why I like the theory of the magazine. Even if the execution isn't that great the first time around. Which it's not. Alright, got my block in. Got one mag in, no accidents. Yet. This is the tough part because this one squeezes between the magazine and the pouch. And it's in. Whew! Alright, let's go shoot this thing. Alright everybody, this is my last try to zero this thing from an even closer range. And if this doesn't work, we're just going to move on to reliability testing. Run about 500 paintballs through this thing and see if it jams. Alright, definitely need to adjust it down a lot. Wow! That wasn't so bad. It tells me a couple things. Alright, so for this last one I figured why not have some fun and bring the shooting inside, since it's just for making sure the gun can shoot and not actually trying to achieve any kind of accuracy. We're going to be putting through all of these, which is, with only 2 magazines, is actually going to take a while, but we'll get it done and we'll see if this thing jams up in the process. $40 down, several hundred to go. 80 down, several hundred to go. Yep, it's got problems. Oh! What I'm finding is that it's probably a lot better not to release that spring once you load the paintballs in, because it will immediately pressurize them, and that's what makes it so easy to spill them in your mag pouch and just randomly at any time. It's that pressure. When you insert the magazine into the magazine well, there's something in the magazine well that actually actuates that switch for you. So I think it's probably a much better idea to keep these things non-pressurized in storage and in your mag pouch, and just let the mag weld pressurize it for you when you insert it. Probably make it a lot less likely to spill at other times. So from now on, I'm not going to actuate that. I'm just going to load it up and then throw it in the pouch or pop it in the mag, whichever. Loading actually goes pretty quickly once you get used to it. You just grab a handful, hold them right here, and use your finger to pop them in. It goes pretty quickly. Don't need a 10-round tubes or anything like that. You can do it by hand fairly easily. Just takes a little getting used to. Oop, not pressurizing. This is it, people. Last load.